community is we're going to identify thousands of homeowners who, like Rose, want to fight. And they'll say, you know what, there is a place you can come where the police won't initially chase you away. There is a place where you can use a bathroom. It's called my house. And we should put tents up, and all over the country, we should be moving into the neighborhoods where people are losing their homes, not as a substitute, not instead of the occupation site, but in addition, and we should physically interfere and stop evictions. Now, one hand, it will help us win a victory, but what happens to the financial folks in this country if we start really putting, I get in trouble every time I say this, but I'll say it again, a boot in the wheel of finance? If they really can't foreclose on people, what does that do? Well, they'll be forced to negotiate, because on your theme, the notion here, and it's actually started, is that homeowners should be able to negotiate to reduce their debt. And just as an example, if all homeowners were able to write down the value of their home to what it's really worth, it would put $70 billion into the economy. It would transfer from the bankers' pockets to people's pockets. So one thing I want to get you to think about in the breakout is how defending union members, defending non-union people, how can the foreclosure crisis both build a movement, but also address who has the money and how we get it from them. That's one. And then the second is what you raised, is student debt. What if we had a movement that talked about, let's sign 5 million people up, and when we get to critical mass, let's have a student debt strike. Let's refuse to pay the bill. What would happen then? Could we force, I mean, Obama already moved on it, could we force the banks to renegotiate student debt? Would that be a good thing? And the beautiful thing about student debt, who here is student debt?
I'm like 8 million student debts.
But the beautiful thing about thinking about a student debt strike, if we could build it right, and sort of on the idea that I'll do it when enough people do it, is again, it forces Wall Street to potentially negotiate. And I know everybody says, well, then they're going to call the collection agencies on us. Imagine if one of our actions was call-ins to shut down the collection bureaus. So it's unending what we could do, but to me, the way it ties to the theme of the conference is, if people are helping raise the idea that collectively we should negotiate with Wall Street about our homes, and students should strike to renegotiate their debt, don't you think that would raise the issue that maybe workers should form unions so they can negotiate with their employers? That is all part of the same piece, which is how do we negotiate with the rich and powerful? And what I'll end with is I don't think we're going to do it if we're not willing to go to jail. We're not going to do it by having a nicely framed talking point and bullet point. We're going to do it because we create a crisis for the super rich, and we force them to the table, because the other option is we occupy their offices, we occupy their homes, we occupy the streets, we occupy Wall Street, that we spread the occupation until the system doesn't work. And that would be a lot of fun. Thanks a lot.
I'm happy to introduce Natasha Isma. Fantastic. Is a chairperson of the Next Wave Committee of Local 1549, District Council 37, AFSCME, an executive board member at her local. Natasha's first encounter with unions started back in 2007 when she was working on the organized campaign for Metro Plus health plan employees. At the beginning of the organizing campaign, Natasha had less than 1 year on the job and could have been terminated for speaking up. Over the years, she has remained an active member of her local, participating in political action, scholarship, and women's committees. Our second speaker is Corey McCrae. He's a graduate from Baltimore City Public School System and went to complete a 5-year apprenticeship program with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 24. He has worked his way up to journeyman wireman, assistant business manager, and organizer to lead organizer for the state of Maryland. Corey is a founder of a young workers group in Maryland called Young Trade Unionists. And the floor is yours.
First, let me just give you a little background on myself. I am a young worker, as a lot of young workers are here, college students, and I felt the need to get involved in the labor movement 4 years ago when I came in to an unorganized employment, and I saw people being fairly mistreated. People were getting deals under the table, they were being discriminated against, they were being terminated for no just cause, and they had no recourse. They had no voice, they had no one to speak up for them. So that's why I felt it was important to get involved in organizing with the labor movement, District Council 37. Now, I've never had a union background. My family has not dealt with labor movements at all, so this was all pretty much new to me. But I said, I'm gonna take a chance and stand up for what is right. So that's why I got involved in the labor movement. Now, what's going on right now with Occupy Wall Street, young unemployed workers. There's unemployed people out there. There's young workers out there. There's people who are quitting their jobs and going out there to support Occupy Wall Street. But this may seem like a new concept, but actually the labor movement was doing this already. American Federation of State and County Municipal Employees International, my international union, actually started Next Wave 5 years ago. It started in a bar. Young people, you know, we like to socialize, we like to get together, and the idea is really young people are looking and seeing what's going on, and it's always been a precedent of the older workers, the more mature. It's always the club of people who have never left the labor movement, 10 plus years, 20 plus years of service. In the next 10 years, over 50% of these members are going to get ready to retire. So what is happening? They need to now educate younger workers. They need to get younger people involved because they have to groom them to take over for the future of the labor movement. So that's where Next Wave came into place. And by educating younger workers and actually taking a stand and getting involved, we're talking to people one-on-one. We're actually going to their job locations, we're having meetings, we're having discussions. Younger workers and young people in general want to hear how this relates to them. How does this relate to their family? They don't want to see the numbers because the numbers don't mean anything to them unless you relate it to what's going on at home. So Occupy Wall Street and the labor movement can work together because this is something that's not new. This is the time where we all just need to get together collectively and say, you know what? Yes, let's shut the city down. Let's go to the bank. Let's go to Wall Street and make a stance. We could either do it peacefully, we could do it disruptively and get arrested. I mean, there's a lot of people in the labor movement who are not afraid to get arrested, you know, to tell you the truth. But what the message really should be is that in order for younger people and to get involved and also to get to connect with organized labor, you gotta talk to people one-on-one and actually make them understand how this relates to them. How does this relate to their family? Thank you.
Greetings, brothers and sisters. My name is Corey McCray, it's Kirstenstead, and today I'd like to talk about 3 different phases that I went through in my life. But today I'd like to tell you a brief history, and those 3 phases are the brief history of myself before I got into the movement, my transition into the movement, and where I am today and what role not only myself, but we all play in this progressive movement. As stated before, I was born and raised in Baltimore City. I grew up with a brother and 2 sisters. The beginning of my life was pretty easy. I went to school, you got good grades, and then I found myself in that time where a lot of young people are. They go to middle school, they go to high school, and you find yourself, you're trying to find yourself, but also dealing with challenges. So as I transitioned from middle school to high school, like I said, I found myself dealing with those challenges, and I also found that my mother was dealing with those challenges because she was raising she was a single mother, raising a son and a daughter and other children, but she may not have always been equipped to raise a challenging son, even though she was doing the best job that she could do. So needless to say, during middle school, I gotten put out of several schools. During high school, I gotten put out of several schools. And I would bounce back and forth with my mother and with my grandmother due to the fact that I was getting in that trouble and nobody could kind of contain what I was doing at that time. By the age of 13, I became involved. I was selling drugs, I was carrying guns, and my juvenile record was a long history. And when I was 18, I actually had 2 adult charges before I could turn to age 18. I actually spent my 18th birthday over the city jail, which was in Baltimore City Jail, from the juvenile section to the adult section. And I say that because, like many people that I heard in this room, we didn't know about the labor movement. And I'm going into this next part where, if you still don't understand, what I'm saying is that at the age of 16, I was incarcerated for 10 months. And I was home less than 30 days, and I was locked right back up again. And that's how I ended up turning 18 over to jail. While many people had counted me out and considered a lost hope, it was still one person that was still believed in me. It was still one person that felt as though it was something that could come out of Corey McCray, and that was my mother. Which goes to the next part. What she did was, at that age of 18, she actually called the Department of Labor. She asked the Department of Labor, she said, can I have every apprenticeship that's located in the state of Maryland, and can I have it sent to my home? And what that did was, eventually I stumbled into the IBEW, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. And this leads me to my second part, which is how I transitioned into the movement, the labor movement, the progressive movement. Well, eventually I was accepted into the IBEW, the IBEW's apprenticeship. And while accepted into the IBEW's apprenticeship, some of the street smarts that I acquired, I just applied them to the IBEW, and it helped polish me due to the fact that I had the instructors, the structure with the instructors that was encouraging me to go on. Not only did I have the instructors, I actually had the journeyman electricians. Due to the fact that I was an apprentice, I was able to learn from a good male role model or female role model due to the fact that electricians aren't just men. And then it was the contractors who were able to kind of give me that direction. I actually saw hand in hand what they were doing and how they were able to make money, the importance of brotherhood, the importance of why they do what they do, not only to make sure that, because they think that it's right. It's right for us to make a good living wage. It's right for us to have health care. It's right for us to have a good retirement. So what that did was, that gave me a clear direction. It gave me an alternative on where I could take my life, which was a part of the middle class, something that I knew nothing about, something that I was encouraged by doing, something to really understand what it means to be a homeowner, to be able to put your kids through school, to be able to do the things that I heard a young lady come up here and talk about, which was from Ohio, but her family was a part of the middle class. And that was a very inspiring story, and that was what I wanted to be. Now as time went on, I went on to work 2 jobs. I worked for the IBEW, as you know, and I also worked for the Home Depot, just to kind of stay out of trouble and at the same time make some money and save some different money. And being a part of that middle class, or being able to have that structure, those instructors, those journeyman electricians that played a very important part in my life, I was able to purchase my first home at the age of 20. And slowly I felt like I was becoming the middle class, the thing that I was aspiring to do, the things that I seen the people next to me doing. Talking to some of the journeymen, I realized how they invested their monies in the different investment properties, stores, and different alternatives to make other income. And this could not have been done if the people didn't lay the foundation for us to make a good living wage, for us to have a retirement, for us to have the health care. So eventually, I did the same things that my journeymen were telling me to do. Corey, invest the good living wage that you make and put it back into your community. So I found myself purchasing rental homes and building my community, being able to pick the people that was in my community, being more engaged within my community association. Some of the things that I didn't know were there until I became involved in the labor movement. I mention this because it was then that I was appreciating the middle class and what the brothers and sisters before me had fought for to make sure that I had that good living wage that I keep talking about, the health care, the retirement, and just having the opportunity to take a chance. That's what we all want, you know. We just want to be able to take a chance, to be able to have that home, have that the college kid, just be able to have the things that we all dream of with the middle class. It was then that I started going to my union meetings, understanding more of what the brotherhood truly was. It was then that I began to take a vested interest in my community because now I was a stakeholder. It was then that I knew the foundation that was laid in front of me. When I graduated from the apprenticeship, my life began to change. I was asked by my business manager, Corey, I want you to come on staff and I want you to be an assistant business manager / organizer. Now, this was something that was never done in my local before. Many of the people that were on staff or in the places of position were at the age of 50. And it was a very controversial issue to have a person not only of my age, but also of my race to come to staff. And I saw that he was willing to take that chance. And when I say that, I'm saying it because in his administration, it was only one other African-American person on staff, and then I found myself coming to be the second one. And then a lot of the talk around the local union was, how could he really understand what's going on due to the fact of his age? He really haven't put in the work. He really didn't understand. You know, wasn't it more people that could have been out there that could have been chosen? So I applaud him. I thank him for taking that risk, because all that did was give me more incentive, more motivation to come out here and not only lead by example for the minorities, but also for the young people that was after me to come. This transitions me into my third part that I wanted to talk about. As a union rep, at the age of 25, I felt as though it was imperative to not only be a good listener, because sometimes as young people we want to tell instead of listen, but also a hard worker and bring out-of-the-box thinking to the table to make a presence, not only for the minorities, but lead by example for those young workers. And that's a lot of the things that I see in the questions that's being asked today, and the conversation and the dialogue that's actually happening here, especially with Stephen. I was like, whoa, with a lot of the things he was saying. But you know, I began to become involved in the AFL-CIO, because our Central Labor Council was not only, our Central Labor Council president was not only there, but he was actually watching me. I never noticed how many people are watching your work ethic, the things that are happening, and just paying attention to see what you're really doing. And that's when the opportunity really comes. But our president had told me that he was going to start up a young worker group. And I felt as though it was an honor that our president, our Central Labor Council president, told me that, because within the state of Maryland, this guy, Ernie Greco, the President Greco, is like a living legend. So it's like when he comes to you and he asks you for something, it's like, I can't believe he did it. You know, this guy, he walks around, you don't even realize that you know you exist in this world type of thing. But little did I know that this opportunity that was being presented would give me the education to learn about the trials and tribulations of the public sector and the retail workers, because I was coming up in the building trades. The only things that I knew about was the building trades. I really didn't understand the things that teachers were going through, what AFSCME was going through, what the UFCW was going through. So it gave me that opportunity to broaden my horizon. And it kind of gave me the opportunity to meet other young progressives within the movement, due to the fact that it was other young workers from different local unions sitting on this young worker group. And it gave us the time to have that conversation, the performing actions that not only maybe affected the building trades, it also affected teachers. It affected when the Wisconsin thing, we're getting out there and we're yelling for the public employees right in our state capitol, and different things like that. So it just gave me that time to learn about the different aspects and the things, and get out of this small bubble that I think that the world revolves around the building trades. And it kind of helped me to lead the charge in the resurgence of the labor movement, because right now I see so many leaders within this room right now, and a lot of the people that just got up to speak, Natasha, Kirsten, Miss Cook, and different things like that. But these are young people that are harnessing that energy to kind of come out here and get on the front line. The education that I received from that experience, like I said, it broadened my horizons, but it also let me see the challenges and attacks that was on the middle class. I kind of saw it right there in the front view, due to the fact that, like I said, I got out of that small bubble, and then I was becoming more involved in the AFL-CIO. And this is why, and what I really realized was why it was imperative to keep the middle class around. So as I said that, I hate giving problems without actually giving solutions. So some of the solutions, and that's why I actually told the 3 different parts in my story, because it was some of the solutions that I found within that story. And those 3 were chances, inclusion, and involvement. Chances. We're going to have to take chances. The labor movement is going to have to recognize and develop strong young leaders to tell the story of the middle class. A lot of people said they didn't know about unions. I was one of the people that didn't know about a union until I got into the movement. You know, some people do know and some people don't know, but the labor movement has to take chances if they're going to be a part of the future, if they're going to be a part of the occupation or different movements that's coming to fruition at this time. Inclusion. Not only are we going to have to bring on minorities, but we're going to have to be supportive of all progressive groups. because we all are the 99%. And when I say that, I'm talking about the undocumented workers, the LGBT, the low-wage workers, the carpenters, the churches, the grocery workers, women, and etc. Because the 99% can empower the middle class by standing up to the 1%, and that can be done if we are organized. And the last one, involvement.